Let's move on next to part 4, and this is really all about getting the lead. Now, for those of you that came on here looking for information on how to set up Groundhogg from the ground up, which is the marketing CRM of choice, we're taking a much bigger overview of the marketing automation system and all the things that you need to make Groundhogg work. If you want to know how Groundhogg works, there's as I mentioned at the beginning of the seminar, there is a quick start video training system that can help you set up an email series, help you set up Groundhogg in order to start collecting contact data. Is there a question, Michael? Okay, Melanie has a question. Is there a number of targeted audience traffic platforms that you recommend starting with? Now, Melanie, that really depends on two things. One, do you currently have any reach or significance in terms of recognition in a specific online market or even offline? In other words, do you have followers? And followers can be online or offline. Do you do public speaking presentations? Do you run your own podcast? Are you a guest on other people's podcasts? Obviously, whatever you're doing now that is working for you, emphasize that particular thing. Okay, so people say, well, what should I be doing? And my first thing is, well, what are you doing right now that's already working? And put more time and effort and focus in that area. For example, I heard Adrian talk on office hours the other day, and he was answering questions about what has the biggest impact in terms of traffic platforms, and his response to that was podcasting. He fell into the WordPress community and podcasts in the WordPress community, and those seem to have the biggest impact on getting the targeted audience that he wants. But again, that's a very specific situation for Groundhogg. For me, for training business pros, my level of client, I don't get clients from Facebook posts. I don't get clients from LinkedIn posts. I don't get clients from anything to do with social media. Most of my high-level clients, which are CEOs of companies, don't really pay much attention to that. Where do they come from? They come from referral. They come from the golf club, relationships, and the things that I built up over the years. So as a traffic source for executive consulting, I'm not going to be advertising for that. I'm not going to be putting out Google ads or any other platform. It's really about, so-and-so CEO of whatever company told CEO of another company, and away we go. So again, it depends on each situation. In addition to that, what I would recommend is if you're just starting out, which was really the question, is once again, focus on the things that are working and double them up. Put more focus and more energy on those things. And secondly is really look at the Google advertising program if you have a specific product and service that people are looking for. Yes, the cost per click may be a little bit more than you're willing to bear, but you can set a daily maximum for that, but at least run a $1,000 test budget if you have a product and service that people are actually looking for. Now, how would you know that? And the answer is the Google keyword planning area. So set up a Google Ads account and go to keyword planning and see what they're suggesting. What are people actually looking for? Do they look for your products and services by name, by description? And if there's an audience there, build a lead capture page of information or video or whatever and start building the leads, because that's where the money is. The money is always in the list. And with your CRM, like Groundhogg, it's now in the data-rich list. The more data you collect, the smarter you get. So those two things. Focus more on the things you're already doing that are working to build more traffic and awareness, And the second thing is take a look at the Google Ads program and see if it's a good fit for your products and services. If you can give me a specific example, or one of our people a specific example, we might be able to get you, based on our experience, another more specific answer. Okay, moving on to part 4, and this is part I love. I think we're doing well on time. We're a good 55 minutes in. We got about another hour to cover this. So we're going to do some detail here, and I'm going to give you very specific examples. And again, if you're just joining, if you joined us late, this is really all about marketing automation, but this is where the rubber hits the road. Yes, a common proverbial saying, but on the other hand, it's true. It's like a lot of information doesn't really solve your problem. So let's take a look at how do we actually generate leads, which really plays into Melanie's question. You're very welcome. Thank you for asking the question, and I'm glad you got an answer. But a continuation to that is, well, does my product or service fit into one of the following categories for building leads, and how do I go about that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you very specific examples of the lead capture process in this part, where you can look at that and you can say, yep, I think that would work for me. That's really the purpose of this section. And it's called getting the lead. Marketing automation will not work without a lead. You have to get somebody's contact data. And again, you're now in a fight for people's attention and interest. And therefore, getting the lead is more difficult than it's ever been before. There's just so much noise and information and stuff going on out there. I'm honestly, to be very frank, and I'm Paul, to be very frank, which means brief and authoritative and precise, I would recommend that you spend less time commenting on Facebook posts, unless that's really working for you, and less time in Facebook groups talking to people and trying to solicit advice and information and giving advice and information, and spend more time on getting an actual email address, because there's more value in the email address than there is on 100 posts in Facebook. I just know that from experience. An email address is the beginning of the end of you actually making money in your company. So we're going to start off part 4 on getting the lead with some very basic prerequisites, meaning these are essential things that your landing page or the place that you're sending the traffic, the awareness-built traffic to. And the first part is that page loads in under 5 seconds. So the word is quickly, and then in under 5 seconds. That's kind of, in my experience, one of the most important things, especially on mobile. If people have to sit 10, 15 seconds, you just wasted a lot of their, excuse me. 1 second, please. Thank you. People are busy. Their attention is being divided constantly, especially in social media. If you do get them to your landing page, make sure that it loads quickly. Very, very important. I mean, I don't even know how much I can beat that dead horse, because I love horses, but you really have to think that one through. Number 2, it absolutely must work on mobile. I've seen traffic patterns for most of my clients. It's minimum now 60% mobile. So most eyes will be mobile. So it has to load quickly, and it has to be 100% responsive. And I don't mean partially responsive. I mean it must look super, super good on mobile and be somewhat professional. Number 3, it gets the point across in under 10 seconds. So once the page loads in under 5, you have an additional 10 seconds to create enough interest for someone to stick around. It's not easy. It's just unfamiliar. It's unfamiliar for most people on how to do that. And we'll give you specific examples. Number 4, and I love this one, you have to create subliminal trust. Now, the explanation of subliminal trust is this. People will perceive the information, but how they psychologically filter it is what I call subliminal trust. Is there an underlying feeling that I can trust the information that I'm getting? That section, and again, it goes into where after the parenthesis, it's essentially the subconscious mind at work. So people don't make decisions with their conscious mind, they make them with their subconscious. And it's based, they're comparing it to what they know, they're judging it, they're skeptical, all of those things going through instantaneously in their mind. Is this worth an email address? Is this worth me taking action on? And that's, I cannot stress that's where experience comes in. You have to know, based on landing pages that you've built before, that it actually works. You can't just wing it. You have to have this all-knowing sort of approach to getting people to pass over information. And it's really all about subliminal trust. And number 5, the call to action must be, and I wrote a whole book about this. I don't know if I have a copy anywhere. Do I have a copy of Brain Dead Offer anywhere? There might be one in the thing there, but I can't see it offhand. The call to action needs to be brain dead. Brain dead meaning you'd have to be completely brain dead not to take this offer. It's too obvious, it's too good, it holds too much value. I completely understand it. All I have to do is give up an email address. I know in this day and age I can just unsubscribe later. The offer has to be such that the person would have to be like completely off their mind, out of their mind not to take it, which I mean by brain dead offer. I wrote a book a couple of years ago called Brain Dead Offer Number 1. If you're interested in it, please let me know, and we'll see if we can get you a copy. If you just go to paultoby.com, you'll find a copy, an ebook, or even a hardcover book called Brain Dead Offer Number 1. Very important section. It's a great read, by the way. It talks a lot about marketing automation. I wish I had a copy of it here to show you, but you can find one on paultoby.com. All right. So these are the basics, okay? Let's get a little deeper and start providing you some examples of what I'm talking about. So a good landing page should blank blank the outcome. And the answer is reverse engineer the outcome. So whatever is the outcome that you want to create, go backwards from that and engineer a process that gets me the best, most obvious outcome that I'm looking for. And it really depends on the outcome. What is the outcome that you're looking for? So for example, on the right-hand side, what I've done is, the outcome is we want them to fill out a web form. The outcome is we want them to register for a webinar. The outcome is we want them to download free information or free sample. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the key elements of each of those actions, because each of them requires something different. And then I'll show you a very specific example of that in play. I think that would be, as I was thinking through today's presentation, that would be the most obvious thing to do. It's point out the key elements of what creates or reverse engineers that outcome, and then give you a specific example of it. So the suggested journey leads to the outcome, which is fill out a form, which is the first one. If you want somebody to fill out a web form, these are the key areas that I think are important. Number one, you have to communicate value. If somebody's going to fork over an email address, they have to intrinsically or inherently understand the value of what you're talking about. Okay? Number two, in addition to value, what gives you the right to give that value? And what they're looking for is some kind of proof, what we call ETR, or earn the right. You have to earn the right to be able to provide that value. And that's not an easy thing to do. So, and again, if you continuously make your claim bigger than your proof, you're going to erode the trust that ETR will earn you. Next, part of the ETR process might be testimonials. Other people. It's better for them to say you're good at what you do versus you saying what you're good at what you do. Another area of ETR could be case studies. Now, here's the problem with case studies. Most people won't read them unless they're interesting, they tell a good story, and they're absolutely brief. I'm working with a company right now that we don't provide case studies on landing pages. What we do is we provide them in our follow-up marketing automation. Next, what can get people to fill out a form? A short video. And then finally, which is the best example that I'm going to give you right now, is give them some sort of quiz which leads them to the action that you want, which is fill out the form. So I'm going to give you a very specific example of this. And I can tell you this provides us hundreds of leads a month. Much of it is free and some of it is paid. So the example that I'm going to give you is here. Somebody goes to the internet, and that's the landing page that they might get to. But they go to the internet and they type in online concussion test. Now, we knew, or I knew, and I helped the client understand this before we built that, we used the Google Keyword Planner and Market Samurai and a bunch of other tools that we have to tell us that's an audience, a fairly big one. Yes, is there competition? Sure, you're going to get competition from the Mayo Clinic, from lots of other doctors. There's a ton of information online about concussion, so it's not an easy thing to play for. But we did manage through online concussion test, and there's a bunch of advertising up here, which part of it is ours, so we're not only advertising for it, but we also rank here in the organic search results, number 2 in the Google search results page, at least in this area. Now, I know that if you search for that in Vancouver, I also know that it's number 1 or number 2, and it changes based on where you are at in Canada or the United States, but we still get a lot of traffic for it. So it's free on, and part of the reason for that is the number 1, and this is what not to do, okay? So do you remember up here where I said reverse engineer the outcome and you want to get people to fill out a form? Great, run a quiz, but just before that, I gave you all of these rules too. Make sure it loads quick, make sure it's mobile responsive, 10 seconds, subliminal trust, call to action is brain dead. Anything complicated, they won't do. So let me click the number 1 thing and let me show you what not to do. This is what not to do. It's like, well, where's my test? And then you kind of scroll down here, and then this is not very interactive. You can do this and this. It doesn't seem, and then put in my email down here to receive my report. What report? What am I going to get? Do I have to read all of this to understand it? What you really want to do is you want to engage people right away. So, for example, if they click ours, which is here, and it says free online concussion test, get them into the test. And let's do that. And here it is. Free online concussion test. Please rate your symptoms as accurate as you can using the following scale. 0 means none, I don't have those symptoms. 1 to 2 equals mild. 3 to 4 equals moderate. 5 to 6 equals severe. I think people can understand it's like, I don't have those symptoms, all the way to, yeah, I've got a lot of those symptoms and they're pretty severe. So what you want to do is you want to engage them right away. So 4, pressure in head. 5, neck pain. 2, 5, 6, 3, 1. Hundreds of people, by the way, fill this thing out every month. When it gets to the end, there's an opt-in. Once people have gone through the entire process, then there's an opt-in to capture their email address and give them the results. And there's a bunch of other stuff in there as well. So let me show you in the back end what that actually looks like. By the way, on the website, when they come to the website, there's also a page where they can come here and it's like, think you might have a concussion. Here's a bunch of testimonials from people that we've treated. And you can also go and take the online concussion test, which leads them right back to the page that's currently ranking on Google. So this system works very well in generating interest and then generating the very thing that we're looking for, which is the call to action, which is fill out a form. Grab an email address. Then what do? That's when marketing automation takes over. Let's take a look at the back end and see what that actually looks like. So in Groundhogg, we'll go to funnels. And we'll go down to the quiz results opt-in gate. Currently, there's 102 active contacts in there. And you also need to understand that that campaign only runs for a few days. So that's currently active, meaning we're building hundreds of contacts like literally every other day. And it's just basically, it creates a new subscriber and we send them this email, request your consult and save. In other words, if you didn't pass your online concussion test, it's a follow-up email series of 2 emails, very simple, that says, here's a $100 coupon, and I'm not going to go to each email and show it to you, but here's a $100 coupon. This area is leading authority on helping people with concussion. You can use your insurance. There's a whole bunch of reasons why to use us. And then a day later, right, delay timer, send it again. It's a very simple follow-up. But very, very effective. And so to have like literally hundreds of people flowing through this thing a week or a month, it's extremely effective. Then what happens is we graduate them through the system to booking an appointment, and then there's a whole funnel dedicated to that sales appointment. So if you go to this here, there's a sales appointment that's called consult to close, which obviously not 100 people in. There's currently 1 active person in there. They fill out the form for the consult. There's a delay timer, send an email, wait a day, send another email, and then the Groundhogg booking calendar, that's where they're booking their time. We're currently running right now, because it's not easy to get people to move from concussion results to an appointment. In fact, I happen to know that most people actually pass the test, so they don't need appointments. They're just concerned, but they like the test because it's interactive. Our current conversion rate to appointment through phone and through the online booking process is about 2%. So it's still very good because most of the traffic we're getting is free. So it's of significant value. I hope you got some value out of that suggested journey. We use this quiz in many, many different areas. For example, if you search for estimate digital marketing, we have a quiz for that page. It shows up in organic search results. So I'm used to kind of getting people engaged, getting them through and interact with the system. So the next area that we're going to look at is the call to action is now register for a webinar. Now, many of you are thinking, should I or should I not run webinars? Well, the answer is If you believe in your heart and you've had some experience with training other people and you have an interactive process and you can be engaging, then the answer is yes. If you've never done it before and you need some training, you might want to consider coming into one of our Train the Trainer courses or getting some advice on how to set the whole system up. I've recently worked with a client. I'm going to show you their process, where they went from no webinar registrations and no results from the webinar. We're now getting direct sales as a result of retraining them on how to do their webinars. Now, it didn't mean they're not good speakers, but content is not nearly important as context. It's not what you say, it's how you say it that matters. So my recommendation is webinars are great, but if you're going to bore people to death, then don't be doing them. It won't work. And you can spend a lot of time and effort putting a webinar together without knowing the context of how somebody works their way through the content and takes action based on that webinar. It's very difficult to do. So I put 2 points in here. In order to get people to register for the webinar is not that difficult. This is not about giving them tons of information and long sales pages and whatever. It's just a very short description. And all you really need is a short intro video. And sometimes you don't even need that. And the next one is, what will I actually learn? And that's it. You don't even really need a whole bunch of information on why that you need that. And for me, it's just about, as quickly as you possibly can, show people that they're registering for a webinar, and you can do that by video, and in that video or on the words that you choose, what will I learn? And that's it. You don't really need a lot. I've seen them work. I believe that the less information you give people, the more curious they become. I do believe that it has to follow all the rules that we had laid out in the first part of Section 4. All the things about quick to load and looks good and responsive and mobile responsive, all of that. You have to have all of those rules. But other than that, you don't need a lot. People will register for webinars, especially if they're evergreen, and they can do it immediately. So I love to use the words pre-recorded webinar. Don't tell people it's a webinar if all they're going to do is watch a video. But they will watch a pre-recorded webinar because they know that at some time in the past, that webinar was live, and you've just repurposed it for this opt-in situation. So let me show you one, and we just did this, and it's working pretty well. We're not advertising for it. We're getting all our traffic organically, and here it is. Ransomware. Do you know the 7 defensive tactics? Register now for instant access. This 12-minute pre-recorded webinar focuses on the latest ransomware cases, including 400 plus dental practices and how to be a target. And then a little bit of ETR on who's actually giving the thing, and then some bullet points. It's like, what is ransomware and why does it matter? Why healthcare clinics are a target, the top 7 things you can do, all of these things. And then an opt-in form. Now, this form, by the way, is more detailed than it needs to be, but this particular client wanted to start grabbing more information rather than less, phone numbers, whatever, and then down here, you've got a couple of questions. Which of the following best describes your business, whether you're a dental practice, medical practice, other healthcare business, or other? Free instant access, put your email address in there. If you take a look at this in the back end, it's fairly simple. This particular client doesn't actually use Groundhogg. They use Infusionsoft, so I can't actually show you how simple it is, but it's very simple. It's basically, they get the email, they confirm their email address, and they get popped right into the webinar. I think actually the landing page, they can go watch the webinar anyway, so even if they give us a bad email address, they still get to watch it. But that webinar, the price of admission is just an email or a web form, and it's only 12 minutes. So the cost in time, we're letting people know ahead of time. I once attended a mastermind event in the United States for a bunch of big name speakers, and there was one person there who asked the question and said, I have this great webinar online. I don't understand why it's not doing anything for me. Why is it not creating any business? And we all asked, can we see the link? So we looked at the link and we looked at the video that she put. The video was 108 minutes. If you can't get your point across in 10 minutes or 12 minutes, then don't be doing it. Nobody's going to sit through a 108-minute webinar, and that's not going to work. Yes, the context of today's presentation, if you were invited here, that's great, but most people are paying significant money for this presentation, and so they're looking for value. And then when we put it in the membership area, they can review it at their leisure. So again, today is, even though it's a couple hours, if you're getting people to register for a free webinar, I'm saying 5, 10, 12 minutes, maybe maximum 15 minutes, and pretty high value. So let's go on to the next one. So download free info or free sample. So there's lots of different scenarios where this would come into play. I'm going to give you one example. So let's go for the free info. What entices somebody? How do you reverse engineer someone going after free info and filling out a form? And the answer is pretty simple. What does it do? And how does it work? And why do I need it? So you want to get somebody to download free info or sample, tell them what does it do, how does it work, and don't spend a lot of time on how it works. Especially don't get stuck in the weeds on all the details about how it works, but just give some brief overviews. And then finally, the most important thing is, well, why do I actually need that? What problem does it solve? Okay, I think that's fairly simple. Be concise, make sure they get the point in under 10 seconds. Let me give you an example. So here is an example that builds hundreds of leads every year. It's essentially this. Free Walking in a Winter Wonderland original jazz piano sheet music. That's it. And a picture of it. By the way, if they click on the picture, it's not actually printable. It looks terrible when you blow that up, so you wouldn't actually be able to read that, and it's just too pixelated, so they can't get it from that. All they have to do, though, is give up an email address and a name and rate their performance. And that's what I want to know. Are they a beginner, an intermediate, an expert, a professional? And then over here is just a countdown timer, okay? Put a limitation on it. But all I'm doing is basically saying, here's what it is. If you're a piano player, you kind of know how sheet music works inherently, so I don't need to go, this is sheet music. It's something that you read in order to know what notes to play. You don't need to do that. If they're looking for sheet music, give them a picture of it. It looks professional. That's the only thing that matters. And then, why do I need that? And the answer is, in this particular case, is because I don't already have that. It solves my problem. I don't have sheet music for Winter Wonderland. I'm going to get sheet music. And my cost of admission is an email address. This funnel I can show you in Groundhogg, and I think it's important to do that. So let's go and do that. Clearly not that popular this time of year, so you're not going to see any numbers in it. 10-up marketing, Winter Wonderland sheet music. It basically, and let's go through the funnel. So most people would fill out the form. They get a confirmation email, wait a day, send a second confirmation email. In this particular case, I'm not giving anyone the sheet music that doesn't give me a real email address. And what happens in this particular case very often is people will fill it out, give a fake email address, and then come back later and put in a real email address if they really want the sheet music. So in this case, I'm not going to deliver them to the landing page because it's a very big audience and I don't want them all cluttering up my Groundhogg system. Once they confirm the email, send them this email, here's your free sheet music, and it's simply a link to download the PDF. If they don't do that, wait a day, send it again. If they do download it, apply the tag, it doesn't send the second email, and then delay timer, and then just as we talked about Tripwire. So here's your coupon to go to my online store and download any one of a number of 50 to 100 pieces of sheet music. And it applies, that coupon code applies to anything in the store. So low cost in time and money. Essentially, they can go to the store and download another piece of sheet music for $3. And they very often do that. So it's a very effective funnel. It ends when the product is purchased. So that's I think a good example of an information product. You want them to fill out a form and then move them to Tripwire and then eventually to some type of core product like piano lessons or a whole bunch of other things. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Now, this is an interesting one. Many of you want people to call. If the action that you want them to take is call, and many of my clients do because they have receptionists and they're very professional people or professional companies, and people can't get all the information that they need from a webinar or a downloadable PDF or even a case study. They want to talk to somebody because they're about to spend significant money, and you want the call to action to be phone us. And so that's a different level of interaction that requires some extra tact. So what I have here is 2 blanks. In addition to everything that's come before it, and you have to give ample information, you need to be able to incentivize. So a discount or coupon, which leads to the call, and or some other type of incentive. The reason why you incentivize that action is because people have choice. And people are, no matter what you say, most people are price conscious and price sensitive. If they've clicked on a link in an ad or on your website, and they get to this landing page, social media, whatever, however they got there, however you built awareness for this thing, the tipping point is always incentive. Today only, by Friday, Black Friday, whatever the deal is, whatever promotion you're offering, people will be more accepting of moving forward if there's some type of intrinsic incentive. So let's take a look at that in the context of a professional business. In this particular case, we build and create quite a bit of traffic for Botox services. Now, this is high cost in time and money. A typical treatment is $500 to $1,500. We can spend significant amounts on marketing. We can do a lot of search engine optimization. It's a very competitive market, especially in today's world where they understand that Botox has now been around for a long time. It's fairly safe. It is repeat business because it does wear off. There's a whole bunch of reasons why people would do this. But one of the things that we do is for first-time patients, excuse me, for first-time patients, we offer a $50 coupon. Volume still okay? Okay. So in addition to the information that we're giving, which really isn't that much, if they scroll down the page, they're going to get more. So what we like to do is put the call to action right up front and put the phone number up there, because either one of these things generates a phone call, whether they fill out the form for us to call them or whether they call the number itself, which is right up here. And very often they text as well. So email or text or fill out the form and we'll get back to you. Offer expires. And then down, it's like a little bit of information about the doctor and some Google reviews, which are better reviews than other reviews. You could have Yelp in this particular case, or you could even have RateMD. We choose Google in this particular case. And then some information about the office, where to find us, because people have to know they have to go there. And then any of the links just lead back to the form and to the phone number. So I think it's important in this particular case. I work with a lot of professional businesses, professionals like doctors and dentists and things like that, the key for people taking action seems to be incentive. So if it's just, contact us and we'll create an appointment, that's not necessarily enough information for a new person. And I think that's the most important point to make there. Let's go on to the next one. So the next one is not significant value. The call to action is share on social media, which obviously helps you because people are sharing information. And all you need to do is communicate that it has value to others. That's it. Would this piece of information provide value to other people? That's the only thing you have to consider. So make sure that the information is not only value to the person that's sharing, but it has value to a wider audience, significant value that they would want to share it. Blog posts are a good example of this. Make it easy. So whatever blog post they're on, have some share buttons that appear near the top. Typically what we find is if you put your share buttons all the way down at the bottom, especially in a footer or things like that, or even at the bottom of the article, that's a good idea, but I would do it in both places. Have it at the top and have it at the bottom. So whatever blog post they're on, they know that they have the ability to share it, and they often do. And that's pretty much it for that one. Let's move on to the next one. As we get into more significant offers, the next one is you want them to engage in an online chat. Interesting piece of information, statistic. What we find, and our experience tells us, that if the chat is initiated from a pricing page, the conversion numbers are pretty significant. For example, what we're finding is that 30% or 1 in 3 chatters will buy because they're engaged in the chat because they want clarification, not just on pricing, but on features that they get associated with that pricing. So in this particular case, the reason why they'll engage in an online chat, and it's very good for these situations where you're looking for pricing options, where you're looking to compare it to other products, so comparison products, and then finally, if they need a technical understanding. So they'll ask questions about how it works. They'll ask questions about how does it compare to others. We had this one recently where the chatter was interested in comparing it to another CRM in WordPress called 0BS. So they're looking to compare Groundhogg. How does it compare? How does it go up against? And then, of course, they'll have questions about pricing. And what we find is if we can offer an incentive in the chat, that helps convert that 1 in 3 that we're looking for. And it could be as simple as 15% off their first purchase, which is typically the one that we use. But any incentive, especially after the chat is initiated, seems to work really, really well. So think about that when you're thinking about why have chat. The answer is if you do these things, 1 in 3 chatters will buy. And then finally, if the biggest action that you want to create, which is what I'm trying to say is, if the action you want is somebody to buy something, then the following things need to be in place. It's somewhat similar to the chat, but if you want them to just click a buy now button and purchase, these 4 elements need to be in play. 1, they need to understand what the deal is, so really what you're looking for is people to buy. 2 is, are there any bonuses associated with that? In other words, if I purchase the deal, what else do I get? And you have to put a value on each one of those. Next is, how long do I have to do that? And so a limitation in terms of time and quantity. And then finally, they have to know what their risk is. So whatever the guarantee is, they have to be able to understand that as well. In addition to these 4 things, obviously they need to know what does it do, how does it work, and why do I need that? But if you want them to, after that, just go ahead and buy, you also need these 4 additional things. Deal, bonus, limitation, guarantee. Deal, bonus, limitation, guarantee. Things that we do in Train the Trainer. It's always essential that these 4 things be obvious on the page where you're trying to get people to purchase something. Now, if it's a simple product and it's just price, they're just price shopping, that's a different thing. But if you have a unique or individual or different product and they need to understand it and they've never purchased something like that before, that's where deal, bonus, limitation, and guarantee come in. For example, let me take you to piano lessons. In addition to deal, bonus, limitation, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, this is where a good chat would happen on a pricing page. So people are like basic, plus, pro, agency, whatever. People who initiate in the chat, I didn't give you an example, but that's a specific example of where that would work. And then now we're on to the sales page where it says, Paul Toby's advanced online video piano lessons, how to improvise properly in 10 weeks or less. Is this the year you finally decide to improve your piano playing? Who are these lessons for? What kind of results can you expect? And then when it comes to view pricing, there's the good, better, best model, which shows what are the bonuses that come along with each of those things. Okay. So what is the good, better, best model and how does that work? It's essentially saying, yes, you can purchase this at this price, but what most people do, they don't want to be considered cheap, so they'll move to the better model. Most people will choose the one in the middle. It's one that provides a little bit of extra value or significant value for a little bit more money. And then the best model is the least chosen, but it's still significant. It's for the people who trust you and just want to go for it. So that's where the good, better, best model comes in addition to these 4 things. So good, better, and best. Okay? So from a marketing automation standpoint, a lead capture standpoint, that was quite a bit of examples of how to engage somebody for a particular call to action and the necessities that are important on that page to get them to take that action. So I hope that provides some value for you. I did and continue to always use real-world examples because I think it's important that you see things in play and things that actually work. In conclusion to this particular section, and we have one more past this because we're getting on in time now. Got about 20 minutes left for our 2 hours to be complete. Let's just finish off with some fill in the blanks, which we have is how to avoid high bounce rates. So yes, you have a lot of attention and interest that went into your landing page, all of the things that we've shown you. A bounce rate is somebody that comes and does nothing. They leave, they go back to Google, they close the page, close their browser, shut their computer down, or anything but fill out the form or do the call to action that you're wanting. Here's some things to keep in mind to avoid high bounce rates. And I've created this very precise list. First, I've said it before and I'll say it again, clarity is power. Try to use plain language. Get your point across very quickly and very clearly. Okay? Clarity is power. Next, be brief. Brevity. I said before, 10 seconds or less. They should be able to understand what they're up against in 10 seconds or less so that you're engaging them and creating that subconscious curiosity. Next, what you can do is round up your audience. Best way to round up an audience, call them by name. So if it's for a specific audience, doctors, lawyers, dentists, physiotherapists, marketers, women, men, whoever your audience is, just simply call them by name. Next, and I think this is more important than ever before, appropriate design. Appropriate meaning not elegance doesn't necessarily apply to everything. For example, if you looked at the landing page for the free sheet music, it was fairly simple design. You shouldn't really go to a lot of trouble if the offer is free, or what is the specific example? So more elegance on the Botox page and more elegance on the webinar page. So the higher the investment in time and sometimes money, the better the design needs to be. I've seen some pretty not so elegant designs over the years, so I definitely think appropriate and quality should go into that. Next, if you have quality video, if you're going to use video, I'm going to tell you right now, make it quality. Get yourself some decent equipment. I put courses on Udemy. I do these things with That's Ambitious. I spend a lot of money and time setting up proper systems. If you're going to put out video, make sure you're putting out good product. Next is something that I haven't really touched upon, but we have a course in That's Ambitious called Hypnotic Copywriting. It's not what you say, but how you say it. The words that you choose on a landing page are of utmost importance. And it's nice to know what words have an impact on your audience more than others. Hypnotic meaning subconscious curiosity. How do you put people in a focused mental state? We repeat, how do you put people into a focused mental state? Words are very important to doing that. And next, can the reader discern the value? And at the risk of repeating myself, I'm going to say it again. Value is, can I see that? Do I feel that there's actually value in this thing? Next, passive voice versus active voice. I'll give you two examples. They're in your sheet. So this is passive voice. It says, the Travel Marketer's Digital Toolkit. Okay, I know what it is. How do I get it? What do I do? And so the next one is the opposite. This is a more active voice. How much more traffic should you be getting? Start the quiz. This is a very active voice. Giving direction, helping people choose what their next action is, moving them forward. It's all about giving command mode and friendly power and good direction on what they should be doing next. So there's a couple of examples of passive versus active. So always, if you want people to take an action, use the active voice.